And please note, we are recording this entire session so we can post it and it will be shared via the Natural Hazard Center website for this research award program, as well as on our YouTube page. And so welcome everyone, wherever you are joining from. We are so happy you're here today. My name is Lori Peak, and I serve as the director for the Natural Hazard Center and Converge facility here at the University of Colorado Boulder, where I'm also a professor in sociology. And it is my honor to welcome you here today on behalf of the entire Natural Hazard Center team, as well as our funders at the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation, and our colleagues at the Rapid facility at the University of Washington. Next slide, please. And so today, during this 1 hour meeting, we're going to work to cover several objectives. So first, we're going to introduce, or in a sort of way, reintroduce the Health and Extreme Weather Research Award Program. We'll hear from one of our program managers at the National Institutes of Health. We'll go through the current call for proposals that we made live a couple of weeks ago, and then we'll go through the key proposal criteria, funding requirements, and deliverables. We're going to hear about available equipment and resources, and then we are working to reserve at least the last 20 minutes for questions and answers and open discussion. And I wanted to note that in addition to this meeting being recorded so we can post it later, we set this up as a meeting, not a webinar, because we do want to have the chance for people to come off mute, to turn on their cameras, to ask questions during that open Q&A session. But during this first half of the meeting, we are going to have some formal presentation to make sure we're sharing the information you need to succeed. So if everybody could please make sure and remain on mute for this first half, but then again, we'll take the slides down so we can see one another during the latter half of the session. Next slide, please. And so just to sort of orient us to the overarching purpose for this program, first and foremost is to fund time-critical, health-focused research on extreme weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, wildfires, to promote public safety and to speed community recovery. So at the center of this program's purpose is to fund rigorous science that also has strong societal applications to improve health and well-being, as well as community recovery. And second program purpose is to continue to build and support and uplift the hazards and disaster research community as we work to build capacity. Next slide, please. So this Health and Extreme Weather program was actually initiated as a series of special calls that the Natural Hazard Center launched in 2023 and 2024. Now, in 2025, we've actually elevated this to a program level, thanks to the support of the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation. So to date, we've opened and closed 2 full calls for proposals, and now we have a 3rd call that's open. But we really wanted to emphasize the stewardship of the federal funding for this program. To date, we've dispersed $461,969, which has ultimately funded 12 distinct health and extreme weather projects. We've also supported 48 individual researchers who span 22 institutions. In this 3rd call for proposals, we actually have $500,000 in additional funding from the National Institutes of Health that we will proposals forthcoming will be awarding over the coming year. Next slide, please. And so now what I want to do is to acknowledge our program directors at the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Aubrey Miller has been a champion of this kind of interdisciplinary, deeply integrated, health-focused disaster research for decades. And he has been a real champion for this program, and as you're going to hear about in a moment, of increasing our research infrastructure capacity for the entire community. Dr. Miller right now is not able to work due to the ongoing government shutdown, so we will not be able to hear from him today, but we are very thankful to have the opportunity to hear from his colleague and longtime collaborator, Dr. Ann Liu. Dr. Liu is working from a loaner laptop right now, and so unfortunately her camera is not working, but thankfully we can hear her loud and clear. So Ann, I'd love to turn this over to you now so we can hear more about the motivation for supporting this program and the latest strategic visioning through the National Institutes of Health. So Ann, over to you, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much, Lori, and welcome everyone. It's great to see you all today. Thank you for joining this session. I'm very pleased to be able to share a little bit of information about the NIH HUE program, the Health and Extreme Weather Program that was recently launched, and kind of gives us this background, context, and motivation to further disaster research. So NIH is investing in research and capacity building that will inform actions to protect public health and communities from the effects of extreme weather, weather-related natural disasters, and emerging weather-related harms. So NIH has formed this new Health and Extreme Weather Program, or HUE, to understand and address the direct and indirect health impacts of weather-related events. And you can see here the overall goal of this effort is to support critical health research, disseminate findings to the public, and catalyze interventions that promote health in the wake of extreme weather occurrences. Next slide, please. So I'm going to quickly skim over this slide that covers the organizational structure of the HUE program, which reflects the collaborative approach by the 12 NIH institutes and centers, and then move on to the next slide on the HUE program components. And here I'll home in on the interagency partnerships towards the bottom there, which has generated this funding opportunity being presented today. So as part of the HUE program, NIH is partnering with the National Science Foundation, as Lori explained, to support 2 academic centers to further the availability of critical resources to spur timely post-disaster health research across the nation. One is at the University of Washington Rapid Facility, which provides researchers with ready-to-go sampling equipment and training to allow them to collect perishable exposure and health data in post-disaster settings. And you'll be hearing more from Joe shortly about this facility. And the other, of course, is at the Natural Hazards Center at the University of Colorado Boulder, which provides awards, usually within days to a few weeks, to fund investigators to quickly get into the field to collect perishable data that would otherwise be lost. And next slide, please. Sorry, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. The HUE program has several main goals to address these important research gaps that are still present today. NIH will support evidence-based innovative research that increases collective understanding of the health outcomes associated with exposure to extreme weather conditions and events. NIH will support research to examine short-term and long-term health effects and risk factors associated with extreme weather and weather-related natural disasters across various stages in the lifespan and across different populations that may face higher health risks. NIH will support the translation of validated and unbiased research findings into practical solutions by designing, testing, evaluating, and disseminating interventions that can prevent or reduce the impacts of extreme weather and weather-related natural disasters on human health. NIH will provide an infrastructure that enables the conduct, methodology, instrumentation, training, and coordination necessary for informative, rigorous, and replicable research. And then finally, NIH will provide opportunities for researchers in the United States and around the world to learn, share, and gain new knowledge or resources that can enhance their ability to comprehend and respond to human health effects of extreme weather. The next slide will be my last one. The HUE program has developed a strategic framework that will guide NIH research activities at the intersection of health, extreme weather, and natural disasters. This framework is built around 5 core research elements that are shown in the inner ring And these align with the program goals and highlights the importance of multidisciplinary and global collaboration to support innovative science. The outer ring, in that beige color, emphasizes the NIH prioritized areas of science relevant to conducting research. And you can use this QR code on the slide to access the framework online for more details. And so with that, I will end here. We're very excited to join our great partners in supporting the award program to advance the research on extreme weather and health. And thank you all so much for moving the science forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Anne. And we are so grateful for all of your support. It is wonderful to have that backgrounding information too. So now we're going to discuss a little bit more about the details for this call for proposals. There are some things you need to be aware of before you submit. First, please make sure and read the full submission guidelines closely. We will drop the link in the chat now so you can bookmark that page. Second, we'll be accepting proposals in the amount of $10,000 to $50,000 each. Funds must be used to study an extreme weather event that has occurred within 6 months of the proposal submission. The research must take place in a U.S. state, territory, or tribal nation. And finally, proposals will be accepted on a rolling basis until these funds are exhausted. Next slide, please. There are a few points I want to make about how this funding mechanism actually works. So the lead investigator must have a PhD. This is different across all of our programs, but for this call, the lead investigator has to have that PhD. Students are welcome to join the research team, but they cannot be the lead on the project. It does take some time for the university to process payments, so you may need to begin fieldwork before funding is issued. So once you've been approved and gotten your acceptance email, you can begin fieldwork, and then just know that it might take a little time to actually get the check in the mail. IRB approval or exemption, however, must be submitted before you begin fieldwork. Award payments are made directly to the individual and are not sent to the university, which is a little different than some other grant mechanisms. However, the lead investigator can designate up to 5 people to receive award money directly. But any award recipients are responsible for any of the tax ramifications associated with accepting that award money. However, you are able to include estimated taxes for the award money in your proposal's budget. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to cover a little bit more about what actually goes into your proposal. So we are looking for submissions that have a robust and well-developed research design. This should be the bulk of your proposal. Please make sure to fully describe each part of your data collection and analysis plan, and make sure it include a strong discussion of ethical considerations. And then for more guidance on this and other topics, we do encourage you to complete the relevant Converge training modules and review our extreme events research check sheets. And Megan is dropping those links in the chat as well for you now. Also, proposals must include a timeline that is feasible, meaning that data collection, analysis, and report writing needs to be completed within the 6-month period of performance for this award. It's also required that all funded research is focused on collecting perishable, health-relevant data that is solutions-focused. Next slide, please. Okay, now we also have some criteria that will be prioritized for funding. So these are not required criteria, but they are desired proposal characteristics. We would love to see interdisciplinary teams that have researchers from multiple disciplines. We hope that people will submit proposals that include collaboration with local partners, and even better if you already have partnerships in those areas. We're also very excited about this longstanding relationship that we have with the RAPID facility. The National Institutes of Health has invested in RAPID to provide state-of-the-art instrumentation that we encourage researchers to use in their data collection. And so if you are interested in using RAPID equipment in your research, please contact them directly at uwrapid@uw.edu and set up a pre-proposal meeting with them. We're very excited to be able to partner with them in this way, and there's a lot of new equipment that is relevant to health researchers. We also hope that researchers will include a plan for publishing their instruments and/or data through outlets such as DR2, DesignSafe, and the CAFE Dataverse collection. And finally, we're interested in proposals that use baseline data in their research design. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Megan to discuss the deliverables for this award. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Bordy, and along with my colleague Rachel Adams, we oversee the report writing process that you'll be working on if you receive a award. So awardees are expected to write a 20-page double-spaced report at the end of their research. This report will be focusing on your preliminary findings, as long as the implications for disaster health policy and practice that you found in your research. Reports are due approximately 6 months after award activation and IRB approval. I'm going to talk more on the next slide about the research brief, but we also have a process where we summarize your report into a two-page research brief. Jen's going to provide the template for the report guidelines that we have on our website. Okay. When you write your report, like I said, you'll turn in your first draft about 6 months after you get IRB approval. And then we will go through a process of peer review where two of our staff members here at the Natural Hazard Center will review your report and provide you with detailed feedback. After that, you will have some time. We will come up with the agreed upon deadline to return a revised report, and then we'll go through a copy editing process. And with you, we will work on developing that two-page research brief that is intended for a practitioner audience and policymakers. When those are all finished, we will publish your report and the brief on our website. And Jen's going to drop that. I think she already has dropped those links for us in the chat. Okay, now I will turn it over to Lori, who's going to talk about the timeline.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer and Megan. And so now I'm going to walk through the key steps in this timeline because this really is a rapid turnaround in terms of from proposal to award. And so first, we just want to start with the proposal being submitted. We are accepting proposals from here forward, and we've already been fielding many inquiries about this particular open call. And so at the time of proposal submission, we wanted to make sure that anyone who is planning to engage in human subjects research, that they submit their IRB proposal simultaneously with submitting their funding proposal to the Natural Hazard Center, just to ensure that there isn't a long delay between the proposal award and the IRB approval, because as you're seeing on this timeline, this really is a rapid turnaround. And so from the time of proposal submission, our Natural Hazard Center team, at least 3 of our doctoral level researchers will provide an expert review on each of the proposals with a new intervention this time around. We have over nearly a decade now been working very closely with the researchers affiliated with the RAPID facility. And this time around, as Jennifer noted, one of the, it is not required, but strongly desired aspects of proposals is that we'd really like to see deeply integrative interdisciplinary work, and also work that is drawing on the instrumentation of the RAPID facility. The National Institutes of Health has also really invested mightily in the RAPID facility and to ensure that they have instrumentation that is useful and usable by the social science, public health, and environmental health communities, as you're going to hear more about from Joe in a moment. So with that in mind, if we do receive a proposal that is proposing to use RAPID facility equipment, we will be co-reviewing that proposal between the Natural Hazard Center team and the RAPID team. We're committed to have that proposal review done within 5 to 10 working days. Should that proposal be recommended for funding based on both the quantitative as well as qualitative rubric that our teams have developed and use for this particular program, it will then be sent to the National Institutes of Health, where they have a 2 to 3 person scientific review committee that are also going to be reviewing those proposals recommended for funding. And this is why it's really important that Anne was on the call today to really share what are those strategic priorities at the National Institutes of Health. Because once we've recommended funding based on this scientific merit and broader impacts of the proposal, then it goes to the NIH team, and within about 5 working days, they will be reviewing the proposal. That means that from proposal to award, we will be able to communicate with the awardees a decision within 3 weeks with the following asterisk. That as the government shutdown continues, we will not be able to make any of these awards until the government reopens, because even if we can get the review done on our end between the Natural Hazard Center and Rapid teams, we will need to wait until the government reopens. So please know we will be in communication with you, of course, regarding your proposal review process, but again, until the government reopens, cannot make a final decision. Should your proposal ultimately be awarded, then the Natural Hazard Center administrative team will spring into action, and you will hear from the team about the paperwork that's due. As Megan described, there is a report that is due within 6 months, but Megan and Rachel will work closely with researchers on the back end, just as Jennifer will work closely with researchers on the front end of the proposal period. And then we will move into the promotion stage of this, where Anna Canny at the Natural Hazard Center will work closely with all awardees to promote the important work that you're all doing. And so with that, next slide, please. I'm now going to turn this over to Dr. Joe Wortman, who is a professor in geotechnical engineering at the University of Washington, but he also leads the National Science Foundation as well as National Institutes of Health funded Natural Hazard Engineering Research Infrastructure, NERI, Rapid Facility. And so, Joe, we're looking forward to hearing from you about what is the Rapid Facility, and in particular, what resources, tools, technologies, and instrumentation does the Rapid Facility have available that might be able to help advance science on the cutting edge of health and disaster research? So, Joe, over to you, and thank you. Oh, and Joe.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. We got you.
Thank you, Laurie, for the handover and introduction. And the good news is I have some answers, I think, for your questions. What I'm going to hope to do is give you a very brief introduction to the Rapid Facility, tell you a little bit about how we work with the research community, and then give you some examples of the data products that we have developed, and point you to some resources that are available online, and let you know how you can be in touch with us. We are formally known as the Natural Hazard and Disaster Reconnaissance Facility, and RAPID has been sort of, it's not entirely an acronym, but it's a name that we earned about 10 years ago, and that name has stuck. It's the mission of the RAPID facility to support your research, and the way we do that is by providing you as the research community with the instrumentation and the support services needed to collect, process, and analyze perishable data. And I noticed that Laurie in the chat defined or provided a link to the paper that really discusses what exactly is perishable data. It's essentially data that's changing with time. And that's perishable data from natural hazard events and from disasters. We engage in a lot of activities in sort of a week-to-week basis. Of course, we maintain and operate this equipment as needed for you. We also do a lot of work with training, and we help you with post-processing, among other kind of tasks to help you achieve your research objectives. We have over 100 unique instruments, and we have multiples of many of those instruments. So we have over 300 instruments in our portfolio, and the complete details of our instrumentation portfolio is available online. I'm just going to highlight some of the popular suites that have been used in the environmental and public health fields. We have a series of uncrewed aerial systems, or UAS, or more colloquially known as drones, with a number of different types of sensors, including hyperspectral imagery, multispectral imagery, high-resolution cameras, LiDAR systems. And those drones also include long-range of flight drones that can fly for over an hour and can map many square kilometers. So we can very quickly map at high resolution, very, very large areas. And I'm going to show you an example of such a data set in a moment. We also have 3 different Street View imaging systems. And so those systems can not only quickly acquire Street View imagery, but we also have tools available to then begin to interpret and to distill information from those Street View images after they are acquired. I do want to make special note about some of the new environmental health instrumentation that we have in our portfolio right now, and this has been enabled by the support from the National Institutes of Health. This includes a range of air and aerosol monitoring devices for measuring environmental quality of water and soil, and then we have a number of remote sensing and imaging tools. And so we have mobile gas chromatography. We have arrays of both low cost and more advanced gas analyzers to deploy after events that are involving release of contaminants into air. We have handheld X-ray fluorescence. We have mobile water samplers. And then again, many of these tools can be mated to our drone system so we can collect this data in the air, or else we can collect it otherwise from very large areas very quickly. So again, all of the details of these instruments are available on our website. So I want to talk about a couple, just very briefly, some practicalities of working with our facility and talk about what we offer you as a research community. There's a lot. First is training. You can come here to be trained. We can train you remotely over Zoom. We can deploy to the field with you and train you and your students in the field. And then sometimes people ask us for staff assistance. For example, if you need a licensed pilot, we have 6 on our staff, and so we can operate some of those drones for you as well. We provide logistics coordination, particularly for missions that are located overseas. And then once you're back from the field, we'll help you post-process your data to curate it and to have it published. And we work closely with Design Safe in that capacity. And then importantly, for this meeting, we also offer proposal support. And I'll say a couple more words about that in a moment. I also want to say what we don't do is that we don't set your scientific objectives. Instead, we try to translate your scientific objectives into realistic and achievable remote sensing and field data collection plans. We don't coordinate your missions among your teams, and we don't connect you with locals on the field, although if we have locals who we've worked with, we will try to facilitate that, but we allow you to oversee your team, and then we do not directly fund these missions. Again, Laurie's group will be funding these missions. We will be providing the support. When should you contact the Rapid? The answer is, very briefly, during your proposal development, so that we can understand what your scientific questions are, determine if we can help you, and if we can, what's the best way to do that. And so I'm going to provide you with contact information at the end of the presentation, but we spend a lot of our time in meeting with those who are writing proposals to help them refine those ideas. And if we can't help you, we'll let you know, or we might steer you to another instrumentation facility as appropriate. Where can the equipment be deployed? Really anywhere, although we generally have a focus on short-term deployments, and our short-term deployments are typically on the order of 1 to 2 weeks. But we also support longitudinal studies. We've been doing this with the Los Angeles fires, as I'll show you in a moment, and we've been going back on a 6-month basis to continue to collect data from those areas. Who can use the facility? Really anyone. We of course have a focus on supporting academic research and also federal agencies, but we're really very much open to any kind of investigators, including those in the state and local government sector, as well as the private sector. We do have different rates and use fees, depending on whether your project is NSF or NIH supported, as this solicitation is. And those rates are heavily subsidized. So how much does this typically cost? Most of our deployment missions are in the range of about $1,000 to $3,000, and that varies a little bit depending on what level of field support you need, if any. Because we also additionally have travel costs if we have to travel to the field. And again, in an initial call, we'll talk to you about not only optimizing the plan, but we'll give you a cost estimate for doing this. But I do want to emphasize that these rates are heavily, heavily subsidized by both the National Science Foundation and now the National Institutes of Health. So they are a tiny, tiny fraction of what a commercial equivalent cost would be. Just want to give you an example of how we deployed to a recent mission and some of the data products that we've developed after the Los Angeles fires. About 3 weeks after those fires, we deployed to the field. in support of several teams, including FEAR, the Public Health Extreme Event Reconnaissance Organization, as well as a UCLA-led team. We deployed with our long-range drones, also some of our quadcopter drones with our hyperspectral camera. We provided ground control, and this is Jacqueline Zebski, one of our pilots, who did all of this work, of course, under environmental protocols since we were working in that fire-impacted area. We also provided on-demand training at UCLA. These are two images that I took while we were doing some of this training of graduate students who are also deploying into the field, for example, with our Street View imaging system, and also assisting with some of the drone flights. So we provided, again, both in-field training and instrumentation support. This is an example, and it's a tiny, tiny fraction of the larger area that we've covered, but just wanted to give you a sense of what can be seen with our data. These are high-resolution orthomosaics that really enable you to take a scene apart. And this spans across many, many square kilometers of data collection. And the complete details on this can be found in a data brief. You can find this on our website, and I'm going to point you to that at the end, but it's under the update section of our website. There's a 4-page brochure that provides all of the links to the data, and this data does not have to be downloaded. This is all viewable on the web, although you can also download it if you would like to manipulate it in GIS software, for example. The importance of having this as very high resolution data is that it is useful for extracting information from this raw data. So this is an example of a very nuanced combustion index that was applied to the data to look at what was released into the air, water, and soil based on those high resolution orthomosaics. And this was for the Palisades neighborhood, although we did this for Eaton as well. So I want to say that we have Street View imagery. We use Mapillary as a viewing platform. You can also download the data upon request. We work with facial blurring and license plates blurring of this data as well. And one of the things about Mapillary is you can go back and access their archives to look at pre-fire scenes, so you can make side-by-side comparisons. And then finally, we ran our hyperspectral camera that enables you to really look at the dispersion of potential contaminants across scenes. We can look at the dispersion of ash, how this is being carried by subsequent rainwaters, and so forth. So a lot of different applications, a lot with these data sets that exist. And I also want to emphasize these are all open data sets that are available right now to you as a community. How do you find this? You can go to our website. You can just Google UW Rapid, and usually we're the first entry. You can type in uwrapid.org. Here's a QR code. There's a lot of information available on our website. If you go to our About Us tab, it will have information on contacting us directly. You can look at our impact with some examples of other kind of deployments that we've had. All of our data that we've collected is available here as well. And you can send us an email at uwrapid.edu. Please use that central email because that goes to several of us, and that enables us to respond to you very quickly for any kind of questions you had, or if you want to have a side meeting or Zoom meeting, which we can arrange with you very quickly to sort of talk through what resources are available. So with that, I am going to hand this back to the Natural Hazards Center.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was awesome. And I'm so proud of our team here for going so fast. Lori, you're up.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to share a few resources from the Natural Hazard Engineering Research Infrastructure, NHERI, Converge facility. So next slide, please. So this is especially relevant to those of you who may be new to hazards and disaster research or to particular elements of hazards and disaster research. And so we wanted to point you to the 12 Converge training modules that we have available for free online. And we recommend that if you are not familiar with research in this area, that you consider completing these modules, and specifically ones such as those focused on collecting and sharing perishable data, conducting emotionally challenging research, working with socially vulnerable populations, and ethical considerations for hazards and disaster research, among many others. Next slide, please. We also have dozens and dozens of brief check sheets on our Converge website that provide information on everything from study design to data publication and everything in between. And so we hope that you might download and check out those check sheets that can be useful as you are planning and ultimately carrying out your research. Next slide, please. We also, as placed in the chat, have a training module that is focused on perishable data that we then took that content. We reviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of articles over the decades in the field that speak about perishable data, and we turned that into a journal article that is available open access on the web through the journal Disasters that we hope might be useful to those who are thinking about writing a proposal for this program or for other programs that encourage the collection of perishable data. Because one of the things that we see time and time again, and have also heard from other funders, is that oftentimes people, they want to conduct post-disaster research, but they may have a clear explanation for why the data are perishable or ephemeral. And so we hope that this can be another resource that can help you to make that case. Next slide, please. And then we also wanted to point you to another long-standing partnership between Converge and the Design Safe facility, which is the National Science Foundation funded cyber infrastructure for the nation's hazards and disaster research community. And this is where you can go to find publicly available data sets, but also published instruments and many other resources of great relevance to the natural hazards research community. And through Converge, we've been running for several years now data publication training and data ambassadors program, where you can actually receive funding, a small award to learn about how to publish your instruments as well as your data. And that is, again, not a requirement of this particular award, but it is a desired characteristic. And so if you are planning on making your data or your instruments public and using Design Safe or another data publication outlet, please make that clear in your proposal, because that is one of the areas that we are assessing in this award. And with that, next slide, please. And now Jennifer Tobin is going to moderate all of our remaining time. We have 23 minutes left, I do believe, is going to be dedicated to all of you and the questions that you may have. And so what we would love is if here in Zoom, there is a raise hand function. And so if you have a question or a comment, a wondering, anything that you'd like to say, we would love it if you would go ahead and raise your hand, and then Jennifer will call on you, and a member of either the Rapid Natural Hazard Center or Anne from the NIH team will respond to your inquiry. And so Gordon, Jen's going to call on you first, and it's great to see you.
Hi, Lori. Hi, Jennifer. Great to see you. I'm really glad this program is back on. A quick question. The extreme weather events that have had to occur 3 to 6 months prior, do they have to be FEMA designated disasters?
No, they don't have to be FEMA designated disasters. It's not part of the criteria. They just have to have occurred 6 months before proposal submission. And so even how Lori mentioned that there might be a delay in actual funding, as long as your proposal's in by that 6-month window, then you can still be funded for that.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. And Stacia, you're up.
Hi, I was just wondering a little bit about that. So we have a team that's been working on heat vulnerability in different institutional settings. So we don't necessarily have a particular event per se. So I guess question one is, how strict do we need to be adhering to a particular event when thinking about sort of longer term slow onset things? And secondarily, in terms of funding at the moment, is this a situation where any sort of reference to like equity, diversity, and inclusion would automatically discount an applicant? Thanks.
Thank you, Stacia. Lori, do you want to take that question?
You know, I actually was going to thank you for both of those questions, Stacia, and it's always great to see you. And Anne, I wondered if you might want to speak. I know that heat is definitely named in the NIH strategic framework that you presented as one of many extreme weather events. So I wondered if you'd speak to that, and also if there is, from the Natural Hazards Center perspective, Stacia, that is not something that we're considering, but and I don't know if that's something you can speak to around any sort of language issues. So again, heat and language issues, if you might be willing to come off mute. Thank you.
Sure. So we are, for extreme weather, I think it's a pretty broad category of potential events or conditions that we would consider. So for example, we have, and especially if you go to the strategic framework and the HUE program website, we have some examples that list some of the more commonly expected or seen weather-related extreme events. So for example, air pollution influenced by weather, changing incidence of waterborne, vector-borne, and other weather-driven infectious diseases, drought, wildfires, harmful algal blooms, extreme weather, precipitation, humidity, wind velocity, hurricanes, and snowpack loss. So these are not an exhaustive list, but a pretty good breadth of examples that fall under what we would consider weather-related harms and conditions. And I apologize, I forget the second question that was related to.
The second question was about language, and specifically some of the contestation around, for example, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and if that is something that investigators need to be mindful of.
I would say that for these types of proposals, just be specific about what you are researching. So it doesn't necessarily have to change. I wouldn't go so far as to say change language, but just, if you're looking at a specific population of interest, for example, we do recognize that there are a number of populations that might have disproportionate burdens of disease. So if we were talking about the life stages, for example, across the lifespan, you're looking at infants or pregnant women, older adults. You might have persons with disabilities. For example, more examples, you might have people with underlying or pre-existing chronic conditions, and certain populations like exposed workers, first responders, military personnel. So for all these examples, if you're very specific about your research aims and the target audience or the groups of people you want to investigate, I think that would probably be my suggestion.
Thank you, Anne. And Stacia, also to add on the time frame component of it, I think if you're looking at something like drought, if you can make the argument that the the outcomes that you're studying about the drought are happening within the past 6 months, like the impacts of that drought are actually, whether it be economic or on people's health or whatever, happens within that 6-month time frame, include that in your proposal. I think that'll make it stronger.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Elizabeth, you're up next.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for fielding questions. So 2 hopefully short questions. The first, just to confirm, awards would not be disbursed until an IRB acceptance has been provided. That was question 1. Question 2 is, in general, have people in the past experienced any issues publishing their full or separate peer-reviewed articles, just kind of given pre-publication of like the 20-page preliminary findings? So thank you so much for answering my questions and others as well.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. First, the answer to your first question is yes. The IRB approval or exemption letter, if you don't need the IRB, you can also write as a statement if you really aren't doing human subjects at all. But most people for this award are going to be doing human subjects research, but you could write us and let us know if you're not for some reason. And then the second question, I think I will turn that over to Megan, since she's the one who deals more with the report writing.
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, great question. As far as I know, most people don't have any problem publishing their peer-reviewed articles. Our process is really to support you in developing your ideas and your thoughts. So it's more of like to get ready to write that final peer-reviewed article.
Can I just jump in too?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never had a problem after doing a report for you. I acknowledge your report and I think the funding as well in the paper. So I do it as an acknowledgement, and I've never had a problem.
Thanks,
Great. Thank you,
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a whole like statement that we'll give you that you can that we provide permission for you to even reprint your article. If you're asked to reprint it, you can do that too.
All right, moving on to Joe.
Hi, thank you for providing this opportunity for us all to ask questions. We're a group of civil and environmental engineers, and we do work kind of in convergence research, looking at connections between infrastructure and outcomes for communities, especially communities with vulnerabilities, and how disasters affect those vulnerabilities. And so we're curious about whether or not, and noticing in the Hugh framework, that the specific disciplines weren't part of that, but they kind of fall into this resilience, community resilience part. So I just was curious as far as not doing human subjects research, but outcomes that relate to them and in terms of the infrastructure itself, whether that's part of your consideration of this multidisciplinary group. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Anne, would you like to address that comment?
Sure, I'll do my best. I think because we, as the National Institutes of Health, or are, partnering on this funding opportunity, our main focus does require a health outcome related investigation, but we do recognize that there are some adjacent or related aspects of research that could impact health. So I could imagine, forming teams or partnerships with these other groups, as you were mentioning, engineering, in order to be able to fulfill that requirement for the funding proposal. But I wouldn't say this is, set in stone. So if there's a way to extend those interdisciplinary outreaches, then that would be my suggestion as well.
Thank you very
No,
much.
Joe, just quickly.
Yes.
Sort of building on that quickly, we have Anna's absolutely right. In the last two iterations of this program, and in our many other research award programs, we also share your strong commitment to convergence-oriented research, to interdisciplinarity, to really doing research with impact. And so we have funded researchers across many, many disciplines who are the program leads. And I know several of you are on here who range the social sciences, public health, engineering, and everything in between. And so, Joe, as Anne was suggesting, when at the proposal review stage, with this, we have had other special calls that required, for example, that the lead investigator had to be a social and behavioral scientist. There isn't a requirement in that realm for this particular call that the lead investigator be from a particular background. And so that isn't one of the program calls. It's more about, as exactly as Anne just beautifully articulated, that it's responsive to that health-focused extreme weather research that has the potential to help advance human health, community recovery, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And I'm going to get to Amir and Pamela in just a minute, but I just want to jump in the chat real quick. I know, Lori, you've been doing a great job answering some of these questions, but I see there's a question from Nicholas. Do you have an estimate of how long the funding will last for the rolling basis? So like we said, the funding will be open on a rolling basis, but we plan to fund, so all the awards will be between $10,000 and $50,000. So we plan to fund between 8 and 16 awards, depending on what that dollar amount goes to in each of the proposals, less if it's higher amount proposals, and more if it's lower amount proposals. And so we don't really have an end date, but it is going to be on a first come, first served basis in terms of reviewing proposals. And we are looking for the best science. And so we're going to be very rigorous in our review. And I hope that helps answer your question. And then one more from the chat, and then I'll move back to the.
Jen,
Oh,
just a really quick follow-up on that, just to be really clear. As I noted earlier, we do have $500,000 to disperse as part of this award program, but it will be dispersed over a period of this year. And from the award opening, there's about a 1-year block, and we don't know what's going to happen. But generally speaking, we're going to try not to, give out the $500,000 over the next month because there isn't a set deadline. And we have talked to NIH about this, where, again, this is a very roughly speaking, but perhaps distributing about half of the funds in this first 6 months of the award program and about half in the second 6 months to ensure we don't just spend everything immediately. But again, none of us know what is coming. We could have a large-scale disaster that could lead us to fund many more proposals, as we did with Hurricane Helene and the Los Angeles fires last year. Those ended up being 2 really big events that multiple awards went to. During the first year of this program, it was really spread across many sort of smaller scale, geographically dispersed events. And so we don't know what this year is going to hold, but it is a rolling basis. So as Jen always says, getting in earlier is preferable, but we are going to try to pace ourselves with this so the funding, again, isn't just dispersed on a sort of first come, first serve. We'll be reviewing very rigorously. Thank you.
Yep, and one more question from the chat real quick, and then I'll turn to the in-person questions. Nasheen asked if one PI could submit multiple proposals, and the answer to that question is yes, you can submit multiple proposals. However, we will be reviewing them against each other too. So we probably won't fund the same person 3 times, but we'll choose the best of the 3 proposals that you've submitted, if that makes sense. Okay, Amir, what is your question?
Hi, I have 2 questions. My first question is a general question. The other one is a CU specific one. So the general question, in the context of this call, does health include mental health, stress, and anxiety resulting from that event? And my CU specific question, this is coming also from Maria Fernanda, are we allowed to budget funds for estimated taxes in the CU budget? Thank
Yes,
you.
the answer to both your questions is yes. Mental health is included in our mental or physical health impacts is what we're looking at. And for the CU Boulder aspect, you can include, or actually for anybody, you can include the tax ramifications for your award in your budget in the proposal. Absolutely. Finally.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. My question is about the NERI facility, really to Joe. I know you told us in the past that if we are using the facility, we can email you our idea. So does that still apply to this one? Like if we think we want to use the something with the facility, we can email you our idea before we submit the proposal.
Yes, and I would suggest we even go beyond just an email exchange. If you contact us through our contact information online, very easy to find, what we'll do is we'll, within usually 1 to 2 days, try to set up a call with you, depending on how perishable the data is, how urgent the data collection is. But we'll be in touch with you very quickly to have a Zoom meeting to just talk through your scientific objectives, talk about how you could apply rapid instrumentation, and then let you decide from there if this is something that would be supporting your work. So we just find it to be much more fluid to be able to have a conversation about someone rather than a lengthy email exchange back and forth, but certainly initiate it with an email. We'll figure out who is the right person or individuals on our staff to come into those meetings. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 disciplinary experts. Sometimes we have a single one. Sometimes they involve very technical questions about flight restrictions around sensitive areas like government facilities or Washington, D.C. or something like this. So sometimes we'll bring in those individuals, but contact us. And like I said, we'll talk with you. Okay. And these are very brief. These are on the order of, they're as long as they need to be, but they're generally no more than half an hour, at least as an initial intake call.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Okay, that way.
Hello, thank you, Jennifer. And yeah, actually, I would like to appreciate all of you for providing that comprehensive information. It was really helpful. So I think I only have one question regarding the focus area. Probably I missed some information. I see that on the website it is to my understanding, it seems like it is the main focus is on people. It is actually about the health of people. I'm not sure if the safety, like the risk of building health infrastructure, is that of interest or it is currently out of the scope.
Anne, would you like to answer that question?
That is an interesting question, because I don't know that. I think what I want to say is we're not very rigid about what we are defining as health outcomes. But if you're speaking about aspects of buildings or more engineering type of factors as the outcome of study, then I would say that seems to fall outside the scope. But again, as I had suggested earlier to someone with a similar question, if you have a viable question that you think could be linked to someone or to health outcomes that someone else might be open to partnering up with, that might be an avenue to pursue a research question along those lines. And I don't know if anyone else from the Natural Hazard Center who might have fielded any types of proposals like this before have anything to add.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne. Yes, thank you. Yep.
Oh, sure
I would
thing.
add to that
Sorry.
a little bit, just say that really the proposal needs to have things that are like when we have the required characteristics, some of those are health relevant and solutions oriented. So if you're making the connection to some kind of built environment that actually is going to have a positive impact on people's health, then that's kind of how you should frame your research. And especially if you're partnering with other people outside of engineering as a discipline and social scientists, that would make it even stronger. But really just thinking through those required characteristics and making sure you're meeting those goals in your proposal.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. And I appreciate the flexibility here. Of course, it is definitely helpful, and I'm going to think from that direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the chat here. I know there's some more questions. I'm going through the ones Lori answered. Anne Garland has a question, and she says, does this program acknowledge care principles and data sovereignty? Lori, would you like to answer that question?
I'd love to, and thank you for asking that question. We actually 2 years ago, in response to under the prior administration, under the Office of Science and Technology Policy, had issued guidance that any federally funded research, the data would need to be made publicly available. And so we ran a major open data workshop for the hazards and disaster research community, where we talked about the FAIR and the CARE principles and their centrality to everything, all the work that we do. And that final workshop report and the guidance that was included in it is available on the Natural Hazard Center website. And in the guidelines for these proposals, as you will see, one of the, again, it's not required, but absolutely desired, is related to that commitment to ethical data collection all the way to the end to the ethical data sharing. So I think integrating a section on not just data management, but really how those care or FAIR principles might be influencing what you are ultimately doing with the data you're collecting, I think would be a very powerful thing to include in your proposal. So thank you for asking that.
Great, thank you, Lori. The next question is by Elizabeth. If a proposal is rejected in the early part of a funding cycle, is a PA or team eligible to submit another proposal within the year timeframe? Absolutely, yes. We actually give really detailed feedback on every proposal that we receive. So the good thing is that you'll get that feedback. It might be a no, but then you can think through it and incorporate. We don't want people to turn it right around if it's not like a revise and resubmit kind of thing, but you're absolutely welcome to submit again. And then Zukai, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but his next question, if the event occurred within the last 6 months, should we focus specifically on that event or work on a more general response to it? Can you say a little bit more about what you mean by that question?
Oh, hi, Jennifer. Yeah. My question is about like, for example, if a hurricane occurs in the last 6 months, should we specifically work on that, or it can be a hurricane-related question?
It should be the event. It should be focused on the event that occurred in the last 6 months, for sure. Yeah, and it depends on your research question and stuff if you're going to be comparing to other hurricanes or anything, but
Okay,
definitely be focusing on the event that just occurred.
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have a follow-up question with Bowei previously. Like, if we are working on an infrastructure-related risk, is that any possible the health means to the death of the impact of the hazard or something?
So what is your question? If the infrastructure or the home leads to death
Yes,
of people living in the home, is that eligible? I think
yes.
again, like I told Bawai too, if you look through the required characteristics online, as long as you're talking about the overall health of the community, of the people that are living there, and how your solutions or your findings are going to improve the health outcomes for people in that community, I think if you're really framing it that way, it's possible. But I would need to see the full, all your research questions and everything to know more.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Olga.
Hello. Yes, my question is about the compensation of, let's say, for example, participants. Would there be possibility to compensate participants if we, for example, do some interviews?
Yes, absolutely. We definitely encourage compensation for interviewees. But the money is going to go directly to you as the award recipient, and then you can use that money however you want to complete the research goals. And so if funding for participants is part of that, then you would have to buy gift cards yourself or however you're going to initiate those funds with those participants. But it is an allowable expense for your
Thank you.
budget. You're welcome. Dianya.
Hi, thank you. I see this question coming and I would like to get like a more clear answer in terms of weather disasters, extreme weather events that take more than like one specific time point. I'm talking about like heat waves, or like I saw in the chat, like unusual cold winters or wind events, something like that. If these types of events happen in a season, for example, do we have to take this hard deadline of 6 months before um, for like the moment it started, the moment it finishes? Like how will that work? Thank you.
Yeah, so for those more long-term and chronic disasters that occur, like I was telling Stacia a little bit, I think those are a little more difficult to say, okay, here's the main event that happened. It's the hurricane or the tornado. It's very clear when that happens. But with these more chronic events, I would say as long as you can kind of characterize the event in the fact that the outcomes or the negative impacts from that event are occurring within the last 6 months to those populations that are that you're studying, I think that's a very strong argument for why that event would have occurred within 6 months. Because the impacts are actually what's being felt during that time.
Thank you very
Jen,
much.
I was just going to build on that and say I totally agree. And to give a really specific example of that, for example, Phoenix experienced 100+ days of over 100-degree weather. That might be an example of, right? It's sort of this kind of chronic event that Jen's talking about. But since we're so interested in like health impacts and health outcomes in disaster, that if you wanted to look at, for example, it is that like chronic heat, that long period of time in Phoenix, Arizona, and this particular, what did stress or anxiety look like in the context of that long heat event? I think that's something that, right, it kind of marries what you're saying and what we're saying about the event nature. But since we need that health impact or that health outcome, that's where I think that connection is going to need to be made. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Great, of course, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Let me go back to the chat and see what hasn't been answered here. Lori, you're on a roll, and Megan too. Good job.
And Jen, I know we're at time, so
Oh,
I think
we're over time. Oh, goodness.
yeah, we're a little over time, but just so grateful for everybody who showed up in these amazing questions. And so if we missed a question, I think between Jen's outstanding moderation and answering in the chat, if we missed anything, or some of these I think would require a follow-up and a deeper conversation, no, you can always reach out to the team at our has.research.awards@colorado.edu email. Please know we are posting this recording and this session. The guidelines are up and online. And so we're here and we're so excited to be able to offer these research resources to this community that is so committed to taking research and moving it into action on behalf of people and enhancing the resilience of society. And so we are so grateful for you showing up today and for your amazing questions, and we look forward to continue to engage. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, Jennifer, Megan, Joe, Anne, and everybody who spoke up today in the chat or otherwise or just showed up. We are grateful for you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, Lori. Bye, everybody.
Mwah. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Happy weekend.
Ah, thank you. And congratulations, Jennifer, on all the great hurricane work. Thank you.
Thank you. I get to start my weekend first.
Yeah.
2 hours behind. Sorry to make you jealous. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everybody.